Can Republicans coexist in the FGC? Or should they just stay silent or worried to speak up on anything until another Democrat is in office? Could we all agree to strongly encourage leaving politics out of the FGC?
No. Thanks for the excuse to talk politics. So yeah, let's dig into this a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about how politics inform our lives and how they affect our hobbies. So straight up, I am pretty big lefty. And fundamentally, what that means to me is that humans are here to care for each other more than anything else. The most important thing that we can do is give a shit about other fellow human beings and generally help them out. I think that government is a really important tool to do that. I don't want for-profit enterprise to be the only way that humans care for each other. I think that government is at its best when it's helping people, not just the people that it is in charge of protecting its citizenry, but also just people in general. And if we zoom out a little bit, the way I think about politics is that we are talking about our beliefs on how society should operate. So this is what politics and what society means to me. The reason that I feel this way is because I cannot opt out of life with all you motherfuckers. We are all stuck on the same planet, whether we like it or not. And if you think about it like that, it's pretty obvious that the optimal outcome for all of us, generally speaking, is to cooperate, to help each other out. Even if you don't necessarily like a person. It's just better. Life is just easier when you can count on your fellow human beings to help you. And a lot of that is because it kind of stabilizes. Having a supportive community or having a supportive citizenry stabilizes the lows from getting too low. As human beings, our lives can be in such dire straits that we cannot carry ourselves out of them ourselves. And so we rely on each other to help so that we can get back to a stable state of living. It's actually what allows human beings to generally be successful in this world at all. If we didn't band together for support, we wouldn't have been able to survive all of the animals who are way better at fucking shit up than we are. Because we're stuck with each other, we are all generally better off if we can help each other out. And actually, my favorite quote that kind of represents this comes from Muhammad Ali, who said, "Service is the rent we pay for our time here on Earth." I really like that. And it has obviously influenced a lot of how I do what I do. But before we get to the fighting game stuff, let's talk a little bit about how that attitude informs modern politics, and especially if you're an American. Now, I think broadly what I can tell from international politics, everyone is going through more or less the same thing and has been going through more or less the same thing. And it's that politics tends to divide itself into a struggle between selfishness and selflessness. Are we here to care for each other, or are we here to look out for number one, to look out for ourselves? In American politics, it's generally been pretty clear, at least for as long as I've been alive, that the Republican Party is the one that's out here being selfish. They're out there trying to enrich themselves, like literally just enrich themselves. Right now, the Republican Party is essentially a criminal organization that is subverting the machinery of the state in order to enrich the specific people in the party. But also just in general, like again, stepping back from the current political situation, in general, the Republican Party has been standing for ideals of selfishness. They are a party that believes that individuals should succeed or fail basically on their own, and I don't think that's how life should be. For many reasons, but not the least of which is we don't get to choose the circumstances of our birth. And the circumstances of our birth, who your parents were, where they're born, how much money they have, all that kind of shit, dramatically affects how your life will turn out. So because we can't choose that, it stands to reason to me that we would want to equalize conditions between people and solve for inequality as much as possible so that everyone can have a fair general shot at getting a good life, and that it's not dependent on whether your life goes well or poorly, or whether your parents were rich or not, or whether you have good health, or whether you didn't get into a car accident in the first 30 years of your life, that inform your ability to have a complete, healthy, stable life. Broadly speaking, when I see politics, it more or less breaks down to who wants to be selfish and who wants to help others, and I will vote or support or anything else that I can do to push the government in favor of helping others, because that's why I think we're here. So now let's talk about fighting games. So the thing about fighting games is that anyone who sticks around fighting games long enough eventually learns that everything we've built here depends primarily on the generosity of other people. Yes, we have big video game developers where people are getting paid money to make a game that sells for a lot of money. There is absolutely capitalist enterprise involved in this. Esports getting all kinds of marketing budgets inflated and blah, 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 blah. But fundamentally speaking, that shit is not why I'm in fighting games. I'm in fighting games because I like sitting down with people next to them, cracking open a cold one, and playing some games. And that doesn't happen. Yeah, it doesn't happen if we don't have games to play. But it also doesn't happen if we have a place to play them. Someone's got to bring the cold ones. And the homie who comes over has to feel like they are safe enough to come hang out with me, and I need to feel that they're safe enough to come hang out with me in order for us to sit down and have a good time together. All of that depends on the generosity of others. Tournaments don't happen without TOs. TOs love fighting games. In most cases, TOs would rather be playing fighting games than running around doing a bunch of shit that isn't playing fighting games, obviously. But we do this stuff because it's more important to us that everyone who comes has a chance to play together. That is generosity. That is my way of caring for my fellow human being. And what I've chosen to do in my community organizing is create spaces that encourage that kind of generosity, that encourage people to care for each other, even if it's by just little things like helping run a bracket or commentate a stream if we don't have anyone else up there, or bringing snacks so that people can eat without having to leave the venue, and then we all get to hang out and talk over snacks and get to know each other. Sometimes it's giving rides to people. Actually, I didn't get a car and my driver's license until I was like 26 or something. A lot of the reason I feel compelled to give back to fighting game players is because fighting game players gave me so much to let me continue playing fighting games when I was a kid. I got rides all the time. People would hook me up with tokens. And of course, as players, we rely on each other to demonstrate how the game works and to teach each other how we get better so that we can all get better together. You cannot get good at fighting games without having people to help you out. It's simply too hard. The way I usually phrase this is, if you're not here for the people, you're kind of missing the point. And if you are building a community that is centered around selflessness, that depends on the donation of time and energy and money and material in order to exist, you cannot welcome people into that community who are selfish, because they're not there to share. They're just there to take. If you don't share a fundamental understanding on why we're here and what we're doing together, then you can't be in community with them because their ideals are actually at odds with yours. So to answer your question directly, I don't think that anyone who values selfishness so highly that they're willing to direct the United States government in order to be the most selfish organization it could possibly be, not just within our country, but internationally as well. I do not think that kind of person deserves to engage in community with us because they're obviously just there to take. You might ask, well, can't we just leave politics out of this? But it's obvious that our community is created from politics. It is built on a strong, fundamental understanding that we're here to care for each other, and that all the good stuff in fighting games only happens when we're here and we trust each other and we trust that we'll look out for each other. If you don't share that understanding, you are a leech, you're a parasite, you're just there for your own enrichment. And why would I want to spend time with someone like that? Why would I want to give any of my energy to someone like that? Why would I want to make that person a better player? Why would I want to feed them? Why would I invite them into my home or any of my events? It doesn't make sense. The truth was that I actually got started running fighting game tournaments in part because after Trump got elected the first time in 2016, I realized that I needed a stronger community to connect to. I grew up in the Bay Area and I had friends, I had old fighting game friends and school buddies and plenty of friends in LA that I knew from work and from college. And I had spent a year and a half of my life in Japan, so I had friends there. It's not that I didn't have people that I trust or people I could rely on, but that's different. Having friends is different from having a community. And it's why the way we run our events is specifically focused on inculcating that virtue of caring for others. I think it's the most important thing anyone can learn from anything, but especially fighting games. If what you take from all this time spent, mashing and grinding in training mode and watching matchups and footage and all that and whatever, is that actually the reason we're all here is just to be good to each other. Oh, fantastic. What could you possibly get that's more valuable from a hobby than that?
Be excellent to each other. And party on, dudes!
And it's why the way we run our events involves sharing food, also masking and vax checks, because we want to make sure that we are responsible for each other's health. We're all very generous when it comes to doing stuff like giving rides or helping out with, we've run donation drives for people to help fund their trips to majors for the first time, to make sure that players who couldn't normally travel outside the region could have the opportunity to experience what it's like to go to a combo breaker or an Evo. All this cool shit only happens if everyone's down with that fundamental premise that we're here to share. And if you don't share that, then I'm not going to share my community with you. So yeah, I don't know if we want to talk more politics here. I'm always happy to. But I will say that what I did just there, where I describe my belief and then I describe the actions that originate from my belief, is more than most people, and especially most Republicans, think about their values. The way I think about it is that if you feel compelled to hide your values or your political identity because you share spaces with people who you want to be in community with, but they don't look kindly on that political ideology, you probably need to either reevaluate your values or reevaluate your community. And neither of those are bad things. People believe all kinds of stupid things for all kinds of reasons, but the worst is actually when they believe something and they don't even know why. I was not always like this. I was not born a bleeding heart lefty socialist. I had to learn this stuff by thinking about what was the most important to me, and also by going through some life shit that depended very heavily on the generosity and care from other people in order to get through it. Having beliefs is one thing, but you have to think about those beliefs. You have to think about where they lead you, the kinds of people they lead you to, the kinds of actions that stem from those beliefs, and ask yourself if that actually is the kind of person you want to be. And one way or another, doing that regularly is good, it's healthy. Otherwise, you end up living a life that is not in accordance with what you truly believe. So no matter how you think about this stuff, I assume that pretty much anyone watching my shit, look, Guilty Gear, especially Exert, is the community where we get people talking about how we're all queer, socialist, blue-haired with pronouns, etc. Blah 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 blah. Like this is obviously nothing new. I assume that pretty much everyone watching this channel is not getting their beliefs terribly confronted here. But if you are, for whatever reason, you got to think about why you believe what you believe and whether that actually gets in the way of having a healthy connection to the people you want to be with. And if that's the case, you might want to reevaluate those beliefs. So yeah, thanks for asking. I don't know if I want to talk about this again, but whatever, I guess give it a shot.